After waking up, Ling found herself in the world of comprehensive martial arts and became an ordinary escort in the Fuwei Escort Agency. What's even more terrifying is, in a few days, Canghai will come to destroy the entire Fuwei Escort Agency. At a critical moment. Ling's awakening system. Zuo Lengshan. Ling is the uncrowned king of the Five Sacred Sword Sect. Xiong Ba. I will meet all over the world, he should sit down. Wang Xianji. With Ling around, I can only be the second in the world. Song Quebec. If you give birth to Ling, why give birth to Song Quebec? From now on, Ling jumps into the martial world with one sword per person. Knives on top, people on the bottom. Where the long sword points, all sentient beings kneel down. Keywords of the novel. Comprehensive martial arts. Man in Fuwei, the blade conquers all sentient beings without a pop-up window, comprehensive martial arts. Man in Fuwei, the blade conquers all sentient beings. Complete collection download. Comprehensive martial arts. Man in Fuwei, the blade conquers all sentient beings. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. Travel. Fuwei Escort Agency. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Travel. Fuwei Escort Agency in an antique room. On a wooden bed, Ling woke up with her eyes open. Hiss, my head hurts so much. Where is this? Ling looked up at the room. Sandalwood is fragrant, and the windows made of oil paper are covered in beautiful patterns. And the floor is made of stone bricks, and there are some dim sum fruits on the table, without any modern flavor. It's clearly a room from ancient times. Good guy. Anything in this room that can be brought to modern times is probably priceless. A ceramic bowl is enough to give a person a lifetime of wealth and freedom. Am I traveling? Ling furrowed her brows slightly and paced the room. He, who is familiar with novels, is already very familiar with this kind of time-traveling routine. I didn't expect this kind of thing to happen to me. Come to a bronze mirror and stand still. Very good. The appearance is exactly the same as that of the previous life. Clear edges and corners. He has a handsome appearance. The coarse linen clothes couldn't stop that robust figure at all. It's not that creamy little one, but rather full of a masculine aura. Has your appearance not changed? It's quite good. Ling touched her chin. I was a fitness coach in my past life, so my body management was naturally very strict. The streamlined body is full of explosive power, which can be considered the favorite of those wealthy students. However, we still need to figure out what kind of world this is. It's the kind of low martial world where personal strength is unknown. Is it still the kind of high martial world where top experts can disdain the court, comparable to thousands of soldiers and horses? Ling frowned slightly and let out a light sigh. Now he is still in the stage of feeling dark with both eyes, and knows nothing about this ancient world. Not knowing any intelligence, feeling empty and insecure. Otherwise, go outside and see what's going on. Thinking of this, Ling is ready to go out and check, at least to figure out his current identity. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit my mind. Ling left a cold sweat on her forehead. After a moment, the tingling sensation disappeared. Ling's mind was filled with many memories. Guojing. Huang Rong. Little Dragon Girl. Zhang Wuji. Zhou Jiruo. Asia the invincible. In this world, there are real people. Wudong, Xiaoyao, Beggar's Sect, Shaolin. Various major forces are scattered and crisscrossing. Like stars, distributed throughout the world. And Qiaotang is no longer the traditional ancient Qiaotang, but a hegemonic force that has truly networked countless experts. Originally, I have traveled to the world of martial arts, and it is also a world of various martial arts novels mixed together. Yi Ling's eyes were slightly condensed, and her heart was shaken. Beauty, divine weapons, divine achievements are no longer fantasies of past life novels. But it actually exists in this world. As long as there is opportunity and means, one can touch those long-awaited things and become a truly unparalleled expert. Yi Ling's heart was filled with longing. But then with a bitter smile, I could only think about it purely. My current identity is just an ordinary escort from the Fuwei General Escort Agency. Despite being muscular and intimidating, one's true combat prowess is nothing more than a stronger ant. And this Fuwei General Escort Agency has only 100 bodyguards. All of them are ordinary people who make a living by escorting some goods. Even the chief bodyguard doesn't even have internal strength. I only have a good set of foreign martial arts skills. Encountering a true expert is like a local chicken, tile dog, vulnerable to a single blow. If you provoke any martial arts experts, any young hero can destroy the entire Fuwei General Escort Agency. Yi Ling continues to receive memories. Lin Pingji. A name flashed through Yi Ling's mind. The young master of Fuwei Escort Agency, I often see him myself. Having a good upbringing, gentle and elegant demeanor, one can be considered a gentleman. And now, Lin Pingji has already killed Yu Renyan, the son of Canghai. The situation is somewhat unfavorable. Canghai. That's the leader of the Qingcheng sect, a person who kills without blinking an eye. It seems that the revenge of the Qingcheng sect is coming soon. The first thing is to eliminate the entire Fuwei Escort Agency. Fuwei Escort Agency. Isn't this the escort agency I belong to? Yi Ling's pupils contracted violently, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured into her heart, with a chilling aura. You don't even need Canghai to take action on your own, just send out some disciples and you can destroy the entire Fuwei Escort Agency. For the current Fuwei Escort Agency, the Qingcheng sect is an unstoppable behemoth. Run. The first thought in Yi Ling's mind was to run away. But where can I go by myself? Yi Ling's face turned a bit dark. Although my muscles may look intimidating, they are all just gimmicks. My strength is very weak, I only know the most basic breathing and breathing techniques, and I haven't even cultivated my internal strength. As for the cultivation techniques, does the 5 tiger broken door blade count? At most, I am an ordinary bodyguard who knows how to handle things now. I can't even escape. As long as the Qingcheng sect searches randomly, they have no self-protection ability or network. It will be found soon. Once the Qingcheng sect attacks, I will undoubtedly die. However, I do know the location of the demon repeating sword manual. As if thinking of something, Yi Ling's face became conflicted. The exorcism sword manual is currently in the old house of Xianyang Lane and has not been taken by anyone. Even when Canghai destroyed the Fuwei Escort Agency, it was just an excuse for his son to be killed. But his true goal is to ward off evil swordsmanship. That is the top martial art in the martial arts world, derived from the famous Sunflower Classic. Even if an ordinary person puts in a lot of effort to cultivate, they can become a top expert in a very short time. But the cost is too high. Yi Ling's face turned red and white. To practice divine skills, one must first go to the palace. This is not a game, if you cut it, it will really disappear. It will never grow in this lifetime. If I had to be a eunuch to survive, I would rather die. Yi Ling furrowed her brows and gritted her teeth. Be a good person. It still requires dignity. If even dignity can be sacrificed, then what is the meaning of living? At this moment, ding, detected strong spiritual will from the host, system successfully activated. The only function of the system is to become stronger by killing. Each person killed can earn a minimum of 1 kill point, which can be used to help the host cultivate martial arts. By investing killing points in a certain martial arts skill, not only can one improve their proficiency, but they can also make up for and improve the skill, even surpassing those who create it, and reaching a new level. When the host obtains more similar types of techniques, it is also possible to deduce that type of technique to a higher level and realm, for example, artificial intelligence. At the beginning, I could only complete some simple instructions. But after investing a large amount of materials, intelligence will become even more perfect, even reaching the level of surpassing humanity. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. This system has a strong killing effect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. This system has a strong killing effect. System. A hint of joy flashed in Yiling's eyes. Sure enough. As a traveler, welfare may be late, but never absent. System, isn't this just here? As long as operated properly, one can definitely survive and even reach the realm of dreams in this world. However, Ling frowned. Can killing make one stronger? This system has a strong killing effect. Ling does not reject killing. Living in such a world of martial arts, as an ordinary person, who is not struggling to the brink of death. Who wouldn't give it their all if there was a chance to become stronger? Kill one as a crime. Slaughter one Qingcheng. If you kill 1,000,000, you are the male in the male. Yiling's eyes were full of determination, and her heart was determined. Search for ancestral memories in your mind and see if there is a place to commit murder. The next moment, Ling pushed open the door directly. Walk towards the outside of Fuwei Escort Agency. Yidartu. Among them. Within the escort agency, many other bodyguards greeted Ling with a smile on their faces. It seems that the popularity of the predecessor was quite good. Ling arched her hands and responded one by one. Leaving the gate of the Fuwei Escort Agency, a strong smell of fireworks rushed towards me. Tomatoes on sticks are sold for 2 and 5 respectively. Sir, would you like to come in and take a look at the top quality fabric? The crowd was boiling. Boil oil with intense heat. Flowers adorn the brocade. Countless vendors were shouting. The streets are bustling with people coming and going, and the noisy atmosphere lingers in our ears. Ling walked quietly on the street, with a hint of confusion flashing in her heart. Not long ago. I am still in modern society, wandering among flowers and occasionally staying up late to play games. And now. This is not a group performance or filming. But rather real ancient scenes. Just appear alive in front of yourself. Pop, a few children ran past Ling, with their hair buns on their heads, their faces cheerful, and some even brushed against Ling's clothes. Ling didn't care. The inner route gradually becomes clear. Walk straight towards the direction in memory. Not long. A small wooden door caught the eye and looked ordinary. But after pushing it away, there is another hole in the sky. 1, 2, 3 small. 4, 5, 6, big. Hey, my luck is really bad today. I lost 3 taels of silver again. The crowd was bustling and noisy. This is actually a gambling house. Ling looked at a middle-aged man with several scars on his face and a dark complexion, lying quietly on a chair, playing with a pair of walnuts in his hand. This is the person. The head of the gambling house. I once designed to trap my predecessor with a lot of money, and even gave him high-interest loans. Ling has completely accepted the memories of her predecessor, and naturally can see that this gambling house owner must have made a fortune. This gambling house also has big problems. The middle-aged man looked up and saw a handsome and muscular young man standing quietly in front of the door. A hint of contemptuous smile appeared on his face. Yo, isn't this Mr. Yi from Fuwei Escort Agency? Why, do you still want to come over and play for a while today? However, this is a bit difficult, after all, you still owe the gambling house 100 taels of silver. The middle-aged man was playing with walnuts in his hand and looked disdainfully at Yi Ling. But Yi Ling remained expressionless. In my memory, I only owe 50 taels of silver, but in just 2 days, have I turned it over to 100 taels. The young gamblers on the side also laughed heartily and looked at Yi Ling with a teasing expression on their faces. Just a bodyguard, how many taels of silver can you earn every month? I'm afraid he won't even be able to afford the interest for the rest of his life. However, the appearance of this dart leader is quite upright. Going to some Gulanxianga to be a rabbit master is definitely a bustling place. Everyone is joking. It's not just a gambler. The numerous gamblers present also burst into laughter, as if they had heard some good joke. They have seen many gamblers who break down their homes and have nowhere to go. They owe money to casinos and not only lose everything, but also frequently sell their wives and children. It's no longer strange anymore. Listening to everyone's teasing, Yi Ling remained expressionless and walked straight to the gambling house owner. The tall body exudes a strong and masculine feeling, and the handsome face shows no signs of movement. The arms with exposed veins pressed against the handle of the knife looked quite imposing. The owner of the gambling house was still playing with walnuts, pulling his lips and looking disdainfully at Yi Ling. What, you still want to kill me? Hee, I'll tell you today. If you can't pay me back, I'll go to your Fuwei Escort Agency and seek justice from Lin Zhennan. Do you dare to kill me? Not only will the government not spare you, but even Lin Zhennan will not spare you. The gambling house owner raised his neck and approached Yi Ling, his face full of ridicule. Come on, kill me. The gambling shop owner had a bold attitude and raised one hand, wanting to put it on Yi Ling's shoulder. Zheng, a slight chill suddenly appeared. The blade shadows flicker in the air. Cut out the knife. Retract the knife. Completed in one go. Yi Ling's face remained expressionless. In front of him, a ball-like head flew high, and the gambler's mouth twisted, with a hint of mockery still lingering in his eyes. Bang! His head fell to the ground, his bones rolling wildly, leaving a long bloodstain on the ground. And his headless body collapsed on the ground, soft and soft, with blood spraying out like a fountain, dazzling and poignant. Ding! The host successfully slays Li Long, understands the past grievances, and gains 10 killing points. Killed someone. Hurry up, go report to the authorities. The gamblers looked pale and looked at Yi Ling with frightened eyes. How dare you? How dare he? How dare I kill the gambling house owner? Aren't he afraid of being pursued by the Fuwei Escort Agency and the government? The young gamblers on the side were shocked and seemed unable to believe this fact. Then he picked up weapons such as a long sword and iron rod, and angrily killed Yi Ling. Just a bodyguard who killed the boss under a surprise attack. Absolutely unable to withstand the attack of so many people. They want to avenge the boss. Yi Ling remained expressionless and invested 10 killing points into the 5 Tiger Broken Gate Blade and basic internal skills, respectively. Suddenly. There seems to be something extra in my mind. Yi Ling's understanding and cultivation of the 5 Tiger Broken Door Blade instantly skyrocketed to a state of perfection. And a warm feeling emanates from within the body. Basic internal skills were instantly cultivated to a great extent, and internal power appeared in the body. Although somewhat weak, it is ultimately internal strength. Without internal power, it feels like the difference between heaven and earth. These small subordinates in front of me may have caused me a lot of trouble before. But now, it's just a local chicken and a dog. Zheng. Yi Ling pulled out her long sword. The blade is cold and sharp, and there are still blood stains on it that have not dried up. Pushi, as if a sharp blade had penetrated into tofu. Immediately split the gambling house guy who was charging at the front in half. Then, like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, it rushed into a pile of people. The gambling house was filled with shouts of killing. Ling was like a urging judge, every rise and fall of the long sword would cause one head to fly up and one bone to roll down to the ground. Each knife represents the fall of a life. After a moment, the whole hall was silent. In the field, blood flowed like a river, and the strong smell of blood made people feel nauseous, with scattered corpses everywhere. The gamblers trembled and looked at Ling with frightened eyes, their bodies huddled together. Afraid of being implicated too. At this moment, Ling was covered in blood, with a sharp edge and blood dripping down from the blade. It seems like a shura from hell, which is intimidating and cannot be forced into view. Ling looked at the system panel. There are a total of 6 gamblers. The killing point has increased by 6 points. Devote yourself to the 5 tiger broken door blade and basic internal skills. Suddenly, Ling's body felt an extremely comfortable sensation. The 5 tiger broken door blade and basic internal skills have reached an extremely high level. Although growing again. But it's not enough. Ling's eyes lit up. As long as there are enough killing points, one can still become stronger. Ling looked at the gamblers, her eyes as if shrouded in a layer of blood. The gamblers were sweating profusely, as if they were being targeted by some fierce beasts. Some even wet their pants, emitting a foul smell. Fortunately, the killing god did not stop. But he dragged his blood knife out of the gambling house, not just to some place. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Kill until you can no longer obtain kill points. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Kill until you can no longer obtain kill points at this point. Fuwei Escort Agency. In the lobby, there was a solemn atmosphere. A middle-aged man with a solemn expression looked down at the handsome young man below. Ping Ji, you shouldn't have been reckless and killed in public places like pubs. Lin Jianan and his wife looked at Lin Pingji, seemingly blaming him, but their eyes were somewhat curious, as if they wanted to hear Lin Pingji's explanation. My son has been gentle and humble since childhood. How could it be possible to indiscriminately kill people? Lin Pingji's face turned green and white below, and he was about to speak up and explain. The next moment, a servant hurriedly ran in, with a strong look of fear on his face. Master, big things are not going well. If there's anything, let's talk about it. What's the point of being flustered? Lin Zhen said with a hint of blame on the south side. Ling ran to Li Long's gambling house and launched a killing spree. Not only did he kill the owner of the gambling house, but he also killed all 6 members of the gambling house's staff by Ling. Nowadays, the gambling house is bleeding like a river, with limbs and corpses everywhere, and blood flowing out of the gambling house's entrance. The guy's tone was a bit trembling. Regarding Ling, he had seen it before, and besides having a strong physique, it was not very eye-catching. I didn't expect to do such a thing. What? Lin Jianan's pupils contracted and he looked shocked. A rundown alley. Insects are everywhere, and sewage flows. It is a gathering place for some street hooligans and petty thieves. But now, blood surged into the sky, making people feel nauseous upon hearing it. Blood flowed on the ground, converging into streams. There are dismembered corpses everywhere. Ling stood in the center of the body, holding a long knife and frowning. And in front of him, an old man in his twilight years, with gray hair, trembled and knelt on the ground. Brave man, spare your life. Brave man, spare your life. I just passed by here and haven't done anything illegal in my daily life. I hope the hero can give me a way out. The old man had a pale face and a frightened expression. He banged his head a few times and shook his whole body like a sieve. He just passed by. But this man, without saying a word, started killing directly, but in just a few blinks, all the people here died. In the past, those street thugs were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered in front of this man, without any resistance. Yi Ling glanced at the old man, feeling disinterested. You go, he waved his hand, thank you very much, hero. The old man was overjoyed, quickly kowtowed a few more times, and then crawled away. However, Yi Ling's gaze was filled with some confusion. I killed more than 10 people myself, more than at the gambling house. How did you get fewer killing points instead? System. Yi Ling silently recited in her heart. Suddenly, a mechanical sound system starts. The killing list obtained by the host for killing is determined based on the identity and strength of the person killed by the host, and is determined based on the host's strength. When the host kills an ordinary person, the number of kill points obtained will decrease. Unless it is an ordinary person with noble status or a large number of lives, the number of kill points obtained will be more. Is that so? Yi Ling nodded, feeling enlightened in her heart. Sure enough, the strong should only wave their swords at the stronger. If you keep killing ants, your strength will stop moving forward. I shouldn't have thrown all the killing points into it before. Yi Ling sighed lightly, her expression somewhat regretful. I used to think that killing points could be easily obtained. But now, obtaining the killing point is not as simple as imagined. When one's strength reaches a certain level, one can only attack the experts in the martial arts world. Now, let's save the killing points. Yi Ling looked at the system panel and did not use the killing point she had just obtained. Pick up the long knife and walk out of this alley. There are still many small alleys like this in the city. So, continue to kill yourself. Kill until you can no longer obtain kill points. Late at night, Yi Ling walked alone on the street with a long knife in hand. The moonlight was bright, reflecting the blood on the blade. The houses on both sides were tightly closed, and although it wasn't very late, there was no light in sight. And inside the house, many civilians looked through the window at the figures on the street. The whole body is filled with evil energy, like Azura from hell, destroying, killing, and tyrannizing. Fear and inexplicable awe flashed in everyone's eyes. This Yi Ling is carrying a blood knife and killing people everywhere in the city today. The few thugs under the bridge were completely killed. Even the tavern that has been deceiving the people has been completely slaughtered. What's going on here? In that black alley, there are over a dozen people, and even the wanted criminals of the court, all of whom have been beheaded by Yi Ling alone. The ground is covered with dismembered bodies and blood flowing into a river. Yi Ling killed some local ruffians and bullies who bullied men and women. He was originally a damn person. After Yi Ling's slaughter today, the entire city of Fuzhou is clean. Many people, although afraid of Yi Ling in their hearts, do not have much resentment. Some people who have been bullied by bullies are still grateful to Yi Ling in their hearts. Yi Dar too. Today is really exciting. Yi Ling was walking on the street, and the footsteps of Pada and Pada were particularly clear in the quiet night sky. Yi Ling's face remained expressionless, and she summarized today's gains in her heart. The 5 Tiger Broken Door Blade and basic internal skills have been cultivated to the current limit, and there is no way to upgrade them. After all, it lacks other martial arts skills. The system cannot continue to deduce. And my own strength, according to Yi Ling's estimation, at least I have the strength of a 9th grade expert. But in reality, there should be more. After all, Yi Ling has never fought against a true 9th grade expert and is not sure about their level. Grade 9. Yi Ling's eyes were filled with excitement. Although not very strong, there is still some self-protection power. The masters of this world are divided by grade. The highest level is the Great Master, and the most famous ones are Pang Ban and Song Quebec. On the other hand, above the first grade, it is mysterious and unpredictable, with only some rural rumors, and even the non-existent ones unknown. After all, in today's world, there is no news leaked about any top-notch experts. As time goes by, Yi Ling arrived at the entrance of the Fuwei Escort Agency. Looking up, Wuyang is a vast expanse. Lin Zhennan led the crowd to block the entrance. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Blessing Above and Power Below. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Blessing Above and Power Below. Lin Zhennan and others had complex expressions. Look at Yi Ling. He has a strong physique, a handsome appearance, and a strong masculine aura. His eyes were extremely deep, like a secluded pool in cold spring, emitting a chilling killing intent. Wearing black clothes, some areas were darker in color, which were traces of dried blood. The long knife in my hand was cold and piercing under the moonlight, with its edges slightly curled and wide open. There is still some thick fresh blood remaining on it. The smell of blood fills the nose. Take a glance at each other. As if facing an endless hell, with mountains of corpses and a sea of blood, the sharpness is pressing. Many bodyguards in the rear are all nervous and dare not look any further. Yi Ling's breath was like a fierce tiger emerging from a cage, wild and ferocious, making people shudder. Lin Zhen's face remained unchanged in the south, but a turbulent wave had already stirred up in his heart. I didn't expect it. My little Fuwei Escort Agency actually hides a fierce tiger. Suddenly, sharp fangs were exposed. However, Yi Ling is not the kind of person who is extremely vicious. He still has a trace of kindness in his heart. What he killed were all those bullies who had caused trouble in the village, not a single good person. Those ordinary people were all let go by Yi Ling. The atmosphere in the room was somewhat solemn, and everyone's gaze towards Yi Ling was both awe-inspiring and complex. Sigh. Lin Zhennan gave Yi Ling a deep glance, his expression extremely complicated. My Fuwei Escort Agency, Su Laifu is above, Wei is below. The temple here is too small to support a fierce tiger or dragon like you. Speaking, he looked at the servant beside him. The servant understood and took out a package, along with a brand new long sword, and handed it to Lin Zhennan. Lin Zhennan came to Yi Ling and handed the package and long sword to her, sighing lightly. Let's gather and disperse together. Inside the package. 50 taels of silver. A set of clothes. And a fine steel long knife. Lin Zhennan is actually very good at being a person. Yi Ling looked at Lin Zhennan and the people behind him and nodded. Great. Without hesitation, he took the package and long knife, turned around, and left. The back gradually faded away and quickly disappeared in front of everyone. After Yi Ling blooms. A bodyguard with a puzzled expression approached Lin Zhennan and spoke. Chief Escort, why treat this kid so politely? You should know that he killed at least dozens of people today. He is a very vicious and destitute person. It would be great if he didn't report to the government. Why did he give him so many things? That's 50 taels of silver. Even though he has been a bodyguard for over a decade, he has not saved so much assets. Lin Zhennan turned to look at the other person and said expressionlessly. Did you forget what I just said? Fuwei Escort Agency, Fu is above, Wei is below. This person is a Tingyuan Qianlong, a fierce tiger that has emerged from its cage. We can't afford to offend him, so it's better to leave behind a good fate. Heard this statement. The leader of the escort had a sudden realization on his face and quickly arched his hand, saying, I have been taught. But I still feel a bit dissatisfied in my heart. But kill dozens of ordinary people. Am I okay with me too? Why can Yi Ling take 50 taels of silver? Lin Zhennan paid no attention to the dart head anymore, but let out a sigh and looked at the moonlight hanging in the sky. Mountain rain is coming soon. You guys, first send Pingji out of the city and don't come back unless there's anything else. Lin Zhennan pondered for a moment before giving orders to his subordinates. The current city of Fuzhou is not peaceful. Sending my son away is just in case. Good, take orders from subordinates. Walk towards Lin Pingji's room. Ling left the Fuwei Escort Agency. It's already very late, and the city of Fuzhou is pitch black. However, some inn windows still emit a soft glow. I casually found an inn to stay at. Eat a delicious meal and then rinse off. Go to the backyard. The previous long sword has been abandoned. After all, the blade has curled up, and the killing power has significantly decreased. I am using the knife that Lin Zhenan just gave me. Although it is also a popular item, it is incredibly new and useful. Ling's upper body was bare, and her sharp muscles were full of wild beauty. Holding a long sword in his hand, he casually pulled a knife flower in the air. The next moment, the knife light grew faster and faster, causing a piercing roar in the air, leaving behind a trail of shadows. All the moves of the five-tiger broken door blade appeared to blend seamlessly in Ling's hands, making it incredibly natural. Reached the level of perfection. After a moment. Retract the knife. The wooden stake in front of Ling instantly turned into countless pieces and fell to the ground. The cut surface is smooth like a mirror. Ling stood leaning on a knife. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his body. The night breeze felt a bit cool, but my mind became clearer. A hint of thought flashed in Ling's eyes. Leaving the Fuwei Escort Agency. Representing the arrival of the Qingcheng sect, it has nothing to do with oneself anymore. Even if the Fuwei Escort Agency is destroyed, the Qingcheng sect will not find themselves. My life has been saved. However, how can one stop here? With the acquisition of the system, the future is bound to be earth-shattering. What I need to consider now is not saving my life, but how to quickly become stronger. Now, after a day of bloody slaughter, my own strength has increased significantly, and compared to before, it is simply a gap between heaven and earth. Directly stepped into the realm of 9th grade. But now we have encountered a bottleneck. Both the knife technique and internal power have reached their current limit and cannot be improved anymore. After all, the basic internal skills and the five-tiger broken door blade are too basic, and they are also a wild chicken move in the martial arts world, unable to reach the level of elegance. Although there is a system for deduction. But there are also no other martial arts as material for expansion. Even with so many killing points, it is impossible to continue to deduce the knife technique and internal power upwards. And I slaughtered all the tavern today, a dozen or so people, but there was no increase in the number of kills. It means that killing ordinary people now can no longer earn killing points. Only by killing people with equal martial arts skills can you continue to earn killing points. Ling also sneered at the idea that killing an ordinary person would make her stronger. After all, as a strong person, she should wield a sword towards a stronger one. Daring to bully the weak is nothing at all. In other words. Next, those upcoming disciples of the Qingcheng sect are my best targets. Killing them not only earns you killing points, but also allows you to test your current level of strength. And as a disciple of the Qingcheng sect, there must be a cultivation technique present on one's body. Although they are all some major goods, the quantity and variety are considerable. As the material for deduction, it is very suitable. Ling's eyes flickered with fierce power, and her heart was certain. The next goal has been determined. I can't wait like this. Before the arrival of Qingcheng sect disciples, do your best to improve your strength. In my mind, an old house appears in Xianyang Lane. Inside, there is a set of extremely powerful techniques that can stir up a bloody storm and attract many people in the martial arts world. Exorcism sword technique. Although it is impossible for oneself to practice exorcism swordsmanship from the palace. However, the demon repeating sword technique can be used as a material for deducing internal skills and sword techniques. Let yourself continue to make continuous progress. Now I have also accumulated a lot of killing points myself. After obtaining the demon repeating sword technique, you can continue to invest in killing points. Next, go and take it away. Yi Ling's eyes lit up, and she left the inn with a long sword in hand. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Mountain rain approaches and wind fills the building. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Mountain rain approaches and wind fills the building late at night. Xianyang Lane Old House. The moonlight is dim and silent. Insects are all over the place. From time to time, you can hear some crickets chirping. The old house was covered in spider webs and covered in decaying sawdust, which had been abandoned for a long time. In a corner of the old house, Yi Ling was holding a robe in her hand, which looked quite old and stained with a lot of dust. Observing carefully with full concentration. Murmuring to oneself. If you want to practice divine arts, you must first go to the palace. Don't underestimate the 13 generalities, as their chi forces your body to condense. Sure enough. It is a genuine exorcism sword manual. Originating from the Sunflower Encyclopedia, even derivatives derived from the remnants of the Sunflower Encyclopedia are enough to attract countless people. Practicing the demon repeating sword manual, even ordinary people may gain extremely powerful power. Yi Ling's eyes were somewhat surprised. The exorcism sword manual is so abnormal, how earth-shattering should the true Sunflower Treasure Book be? At this moment. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the 3rd level skill Exorcism Sword Manual. Detected significant flaws in the Demon Repeating Sword Manual. Please confirm with the host whether to use it as advanced material or continue to invest in killing points for deduction. Yi Ling pondered in her heart. After a systematic explanation, Yi Ling's heart became incredibly clear. The cultivation techniques obtained by oneself can have 2 purposes. One way is to continuously invest killing points for deduction and refinement, just like the previous 5 Tiger Broken Door Saber and basic internal skills. The advantage is that as you continuously invest in killing points, your proficiency in these 2 martial arts will become stronger and your strength will also skyrocket. And this sword manual for warding off evil spirits allows one to rely on the system to make up for significant deficiencies as long as they have enough killing points, reaching a level where one can cultivate without having to use their own palace. However, that would require too many killing points to invest. Yi Ling let out a gentle sigh. I don't have enough capital now to make up for it and improve it. Another usage is to use the Demon Repeating Sword Manual, or other martial arts with significant flaws as materials for cultivating martial arts such as the 5 Tiger Broken Gate Blade and basic internal skills. Just invest the kill points. Then the 5 Tiger Door Breaking Saber and basic internal skills will constantly absorb the essence of the Exorcism Sword Manual. Abandon major flaws such as having to go to the palace to cultivate. The advantage is that the upper limit of the 5 Tiger Door Cutting Saber and basic internal skills will continue to increase, and after constantly absorbing the essence of other martial arts, it will reach a frightening level. Become the most suitable cultivation method for oneself. Yi Ling frowned and pondered for a moment. Afterwards, I will be certain in my heart. Use the Demon Repeating Sword Manual as advanced material. What you have in hand is yours. Although it can be improved and defects improved, the required number of kill points is simply too much for oneself to bear. And at present, the Qingcheng sect is about to arrive, and the entire city of Fuzhou is about to experience mountains and rain. Only by improving one's own strength can one gain sufficient benefits in the upcoming events. Not to mention, in this world, various divine arts and magical techniques emerge endlessly. Just what you know, there are the 9 Yang Manual, the 9 Yin Manual, 6 Veins Sword, 18 Dragons subduing palms like a group of stars, each earth-shattering. Not inferior to the Demon Repeating Sword Manual, and even beyond it. There is no need to stick to the Demon Repeating Sword Manual, it's better to use it as material to increase the upper limit of the 5 Tiger Broken Door Blade and basic internal skills. Let your strength further grow. The next moment. After Yi Ling made a choice. The evil-dispelling sword spectrum is used as the material, and the essence is systematically extracted, and it is poured into the 5 Tigers door-breaking saber and basic internal skills. Ding, the host's 5 Tiger broken door blade and basic internal skill limit have been broken through, while also obtaining lightness skill body method, the system prompts the sound to start. The 5 Tiger broken door saber and basic internal skills have once again become in a state that can be improved. Yi Ling didn't hesitate, he directly threw in the killing points. The next moment. Countless experiences and moves seem to have flooded into my mind, deeply engraved in my soul, and will never be forgotten again. Yi Ling felt that her 5 Tiger broken door blade had been elevated to a brand new level. The 5 Tiger broken door blade has already broken its limits and surpassed the level of the wild chicken technique. Even the original creator's understanding of the 5 Tiger broken door blade is far inferior to that of Yi Ling. And the internal forces in the body, if originally only the thickness of hair, are not obvious. But now, Yi Ling can clearly feel the flow of internal energy in her body, and it has become the thickness of chopsticks, emitting a powerful aura. Yi Ling has undergone transformation. Not bad. Yi Ling's face showed some joy and she clenched her fist. The explosive force emanating from it fascinated him. Zheng, the blade trembled lightly, and Yi Ling pulled out a blade flower in the air, shining with sharpness, leaving behind a trail of shadows. At the same time, as Yi Ling swung his sword, his voice became even fainter, only the faint sobs of the wind could be heard. Far less than the piercing sound before, but the cold light shines even more brightly, the blade cannot be forced into view, emitting a terrifying aura of sharpness. The sound is smaller. Not just more concealment. It also means that the resistance in the air becomes weaker and can unleash stronger forces. Yi Ling's wrist trembled. The wind howled and a cold light flashed. The giant stone on the side is divided into 2 halves, with a smooth mirror-like section that is incredibly smooth. Whether it's speed or destructive power. Compared to before, there has been a significant improvement. Yi Ling Muzi was very satisfied. The old house in Xianyang Lane that left belongs to the city of Fuzhou. The threat from the Qingcheng faction is no longer as urgent as before. The current city of Fuzhou. It's just a huge urban jungle, and prey is about to enter. And next. It's my own hunting. How's the hunting going? In the hall, a dwarf sat in the center. It looks like a child. However, his eyes were cold and majestic. It's Canghai. Many disciples below quickly answered. Senior brother Yuanhua has caught several rabbits and is currently dealing with them. Canghai nodded in satisfaction and continued. When can I enter Fuzhou city? The disciples also smiled and arched their hands to look at Canghai. Several senior brothers have already entered the territory of Fuzhou and can arrive at Fuzhou city by tomorrow at the latest. Well done. Canghai touched his chin, then a hint of cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. Next, besieging the Fuwei Escort Agency, except for Lin Jinan, everyone else will be killed without mercy. I want the Fuwei Escort Agency to leave no dogs or chickens behind. Canghai's words were cold, and even his low body still emitted a terrifying pressure. Many disciples below remained silent like cicadas, and their gaze towards Canghai was filled with awe. And at this time, the city of Fuzhou. A peaceful scene. The people are still living their own lives, and nothing has changed. The incident of Yi Ling's murder seems to have faded away. And beneath this calm lake, the undercurrent surges. Near the city of Fuzhou, faces from other places occasionally appear, each with powerful martial arts, looking extremely solemn. The whole city seems to have turned into a huge primitive jungle, with swords and shadows visible everywhere, and even a little carelessness can lead to swords and knives. The whole city seems to be shrouded in a shadow. Full of the tranquility before the storm. The mountain rain is about to come, and the wind fills the building. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. This is an opponent that is simply impossible to defeat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. This is an opponent that is simply impossible to defeat. Fuzhou City. Only a few streets away from the Fuwei Escort Agency. Inside a beautifully decorated inn. The large table was filled with chicken, duck, fish, and meat, accompanied by several jars of sake. Now that we, the four shios of Qingcheng, have come, the Fuwei Escort Agency is just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Inside are just ordinary people, there are no tricky characters. If you ask me, give that Fuwei Escort Agency a direct blow, I'm sure they'll be scared and run around like bullshit. Ha ha ha. With 4 straight waists and clear eyes, the man who looked powerful was laughing loudly. Wearing a long sword at his waist, the cold light was overwhelming, and his attire was also very appropriate. At first glance, it looks a bit stylish. But looking at his eyebrows, there is a hint of yin and jia, which is very uncomfortable. Ning, last time I killed those ignorant refugees, but I was the first to kill 10 people, causing me to lose 10 taels of silver. This time, why don't we compete at the Fuwei Escort Agency and increase the bet by 20 taels? How about that? Whoever kills 10 people first will win. Hong Renxiong picked up his wine glass and looked at the late Marquis Renning. His tone was full of melancholy, and he was extremely concerned about the bet he lost last time. It seems that the lives of ordinary people are not as important as tens of taels of silver. Okay. Ho Renning took the glass and drank it all in one gulp. Hey, if you ask me, what's the point of killing those ordinary people? It's better to find some good-looking young lady. Last time among those refugees, there was a pretty good little lady, but unfortunately her body and bones were too weak, and she didn't function well after a few strokes. On the side, Yu Rinhao had a deep tone and a hint of regret in his eyes. The words are full of aftertaste. So wonderful. I heard that Lin Jinnan's wife was also a famous heroine in all directions when she was young. Now that Sun Yang is half old, I really want to see her. It's better to be in front of Lin Jinnan. I heard they still have a son. Add their son too. Luo Renjie agreed with a smile on his face. I seem to have thought of some interesting scene, and my eyes are a bit flickering. Ha ha ha, you still need to be a talented person with superior skills. Senior brother, a few people admire it. Everyone laughed heartily, raising their glasses and toasting, the scene became even more lively. The 4 of them, named Heroes and Heroes, are also prominent figures in the Qingcheng sect, and even have a slight reputation in the martial arts world. Not long after. The discussion is over. I've had too much to drink, senior brother. I'll go to the thatched cottage first, and you guys can talk first. Ho Renning covered her stomach and with a constipated expression on her face, she pushed open the door and walked out. The other few people didn't pay attention. Instead, he ordered several more jars of sake. Pushing cups and changing cups inside the house, time gradually passes. Senior brother Ho has been away for an hour now, why haven't he come back yet? After 3 rounds of drinking. Several people inside the house also noticed something was amiss. Ho Renning was just going to the thatched cottage, but this time is really too long. Is it true that senior brother was ambushed by the Fuwei Escort Agency? Yu Rinhao frowned slightly and spoke with some concern. Undercover. Luo Renjie chuckled with a hint of mockery in his eyes. What about Lin Jinnan? He always emphasizes what good fortune is above and what power is below. He's just a coward. He himself, who doesn't even have internal strength, is a mediocre person. I'm afraid this person is just trying to calm things down and make a living. How dare they sneak an attack on us? Even if he steals an attack, senior brother Ho can send him back with just 1 sword. Luo Renjie patted the shoulders of the two and mentioned Lin Zhennan with a tone full of disdain. A glimmer of thought flashed in the eyes of Yu Renhao and Hong Renxiong, and they thought for a moment. It makes a lot of sense. A few people laughed heartily, probably because they were too worried. But amidst laughter, dong, a loud noise came from outside the door. Who is it? Several people shouted loudly, their eyes full of displeasure. There is no sound. The outside is peaceful. It seems like just now, it's just an illusion. The three of them met in their eyes, then placed their hands on the hilt of the sword and cautiously opened the door. Result. A blood-dripping head caught the eye. His face was grim, covered in bloodstains, and his former appearance was faintly visible. Senior Brother Ho. Luo Renjie's pupils contracted violently, his heart filled with fear, and he quickly retreated. Senior Ho's head. How did it appear here? The words have not yet finished. A fine steel-long sword fell from the sky, cutting through the night. The sound of the wind sobs, like tears and complaints. With an unstoppable momentum. With a piercing sound, it was like slaughtering a pig or dog, directly splitting this person in half. Flowers and greenery scattered all over the ground, blood flowing freely, and a strong smell of blood came from the air. Brother Luo. The remaining two looked frightened and their voices trembled. The broken body of Luo Renjie was still steaming hot, and it was extremely miserable. Not far away, there is still the head of Ho Renning, unable to close her eyes in death. What kind of person? How could it be so ruthless? The two of them drew out their long swords with a clang and held them tightly in their hands. The palms are incredibly slippery and have been soaked in cold sweat. Bang! A figure in black kicked and shattered the door, with a calm expression. Her eyes were like a cold spring in a secluded pond under the moonlight, emitting a cold and refreshing aura. He was still holding a fine steel long sword in his hand, dripping with blood. It looks like a fierce beast. Full of destructive momentum. Yi Ling remained silent and began to fight with her long sword. Ding ding dang dang, the sound of swords and swords, as well as the clash of gold and iron, spread throughout the quiet night and reached the distance. 5 Tiger broken door blade. Yi Ling's sword technique brings forth countless illusions by his side. Unable to distinguish between reality and illusion, full of a strong and swift flavor. The attacks of Hong Renxiong and Yu Renhao were like a mud dragon entering the sea, everything being annihilated and eliminated, unable to break through Yi Ling's defense line in the slightest. The two of them had contracted their pupils, as if a huge stone was pressing against their hearts. Under that oppression, it seemed as if I couldn't breathe. What kind of person is he with such a fierce knife technique? The two of them were shocked in their hearts. In Yi Ling's eyes, a hint of disappointment flashed. It's too weak. It's much weaker than I imagined. The 4 beauties of Qingcheng can also be considered a signature figure of the Qingcheng faction. There are also some unlucky people in the martial arts world, but now, in Yi Ling's eyes, it seems like a local chicken and a dog. Ho Renning was beheaded with a sword. Luo Renjie was split in half. The only 2 remaining players, even if they have a home advantage, and their weapons and martial arts are not ordinary. Even one's own defense cannot be broken, and attacks are like a delicate and gentle hammer of a young lady, soft and powerless. Yi Ling lacks interest. However, Hong Renxiong and Yu Renhao became more and more frightened as they fought, even losing their fighting spirit. This is an opponent that is simply impossible to defeat. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Harvest Full Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Harvest Full Day. Yi Ling's sword technique is fierce and fierce, with each strike being powerful and heavy. Shocked them to the point of numbness. This sense of oppression. They have only seen it on Canghai. Ding, another sword shadow flashed by. Hong Ren had complex ambitions, stabbing into the air with a sword, and the empty door opened wide in front of him without any defense. Expose a fatal mistake. Opportunity. Yi Ling's eyes froze and she slashed out with a knife, leaving a lingering shadow in the air. In an instant, the flesh and blood drifted away, like a fountain of blood scattered freely. A head flew high, with a sense of fear on it that it couldn't close its eyes. Bang! The head fell heavily to the ground and rolled to the side. Yi Ling's cold eyes turned to the only remaining person, and blood dripped from her long sword. At this moment, Yu Renhao trembled like a sieve of bran, his face panicked, and he had completely lost his fighting spirit. My legs softened, and I knelt down directly to the ground. This hero, please spare my life. I promise I won't spread the news here. I am willing to be your ox and horse in the future. Yu Renhao said, and even Bang Bang knocked his head a few times. Looking at Yi Ling with a panicked expression. This man is not something that their three-legged martial arts can withstand. Yi Ling looked at Yu Renhao indifferently and stopped her long sword. Since that's the case, then tell me everything you know about the martial arts of the Qingcheng sect. The martial arts of the Qingcheng sect. Although it's not very good, more is better. My own system requires various martial arts skills the most. Yu Renhao's face tightened and he was thinking rapidly in his mind. Being able to keep oneself alive, even if one leaks martial arts skills, is not a big deal. But the lord in front of me is a ruthless person who kills without blinking an eye. Even if I obtain the martial arts, I will inevitably fall. Cold sweat covered the forehead of a wealthy man. Suddenly, he saw Yi Ling standing with a knife, unprepared, and the empty door wide open. Suddenly, evil grows towards the edge of the gallbladder. Raid. Since I have no way to live, I need to give it a try and find a way out. A hint of disdain flashed through Yi Ling's pupils, and her figure moved as her long sword whined through the wind. With a flash of cold light, one palm broke at the root and fell to the ground. Ah! Yu Renhao rolled wildly on the ground with his blood-flowing arm, and let out a pig-like howl in his mouth. Yi Ling stepped forward and stood in front of Yu Renhao. A pair of eyes are like a cold pond, looking at each other like a falling ice cave, feeling the icy killing intent. The whole person, like a Jura from hell, is shattered by the aura of destruction, killing, and tyranny. Yu Renhao's face turned pale, as if facing the judgment of hell. In 15 minutes, Yi Ling walked out of the room with a blood knife in hand. At the same time, the mechanical sound system starts. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Qingcheng sect's internal mental skill, Heyao Gong. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Qingcheng sect Pine Wind Sword technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Qingcheng sect Tiangang step. Accompanied by a system prompt sound. Yi Ling left this in, and the previous room was covered in blood and limbs, with no living creatures left. Return to your residence. Yi Ling sat on the chair, her eyes calm, contemplating today's harvest. Firstly, it is the strength of this Qingcheng 4 show. They are all around 9th grade, but if 4 people work together, 8th grade masters are not their opponents. However, now the 4 beauties of Qingcheng have all fallen into their own hands and been defeated one by one. I didn't give them a chance to join forces. It can't be considered a threat. However, it can be seen from this. The strength of this Qingcheng sect is only that. After all, the 4 beauties of Qingcheng are outstanding disciples of Canghai. As for the other disciples, they are even more unbearable, killing them themselves is like slaughtering pigs and dogs. Except for Canghai, whose strength is hard to speculate about, the other disciples of the Qingcheng sect are just lambs waiting to be slaughtered in their own eyes. Yi Ling's eyes are fixed. Sure enough, step by step. After obtaining the anti-evil sword manual and improving strength, I have already taken the initiative. After a moment, Yi Ling has determined her next plan. That's to continue hunting until there are no killing points to take in. The Qingcheng sect has a large number of disciples. For Ling, this time in Fuzhou City, he is not stingy with a feast. Secondly, the benefits gained this time are not small. The martial arts and mental techniques of the Qingcheng sect, as materials, can make up for the shortcomings of one's internal skills. After all, the internal skills of the evil warding sword technique are very eerie and not the right path. And the basic internal skills are too shallow. The Hiyao Gong of the Qingcheng sect is an authentic Taoist internal skill, and using it as a material can also make up for the shortcomings of internal skills. And there are also other incomes such as lightness skills and swordsmanship. I also earned a lot of killing points, 4 people, a total of 28 points. You should know that killing an ordinary person only earns 1 point, while each of these 4 people earns 7 points. As expected. Only by killing the strong can we become stronger faster. If you can kill a famous expert in the martial arts world, the amount of killing points you can obtain will be massive. A longing flashed in Yiling's eyes. And now, Yilin's mind has already sunk into the system, using the various martial arts and mental techniques she has just acquired as materials to strengthen her basic internal skills and the 5 tiger broken door blade. After a moment, the essence of all kinds of martial arts mental skills has been extracted and transferred to the basic internal skills and the 5 tiger door cutting saber. The upper limit has been raised again. At the same time, on the system panel, the cultivation technique, Heavenly Gang Step, slowly forms and becomes a state that can be improved. Finally, I also have lightness skills. This is the lightness skill that the system deduces from many techniques such as the Demon Repeating Sword Manual and the Heavenly Gang Step, which is the most suitable for oneself. Yiling's eyes were somewhat surprised and she looked at Tian Gangbu. Discovering, unlike the ethereal nature of lightness skills, it carries a sense of strength and dominance. Lightness skills. Can you also be strong and domineering? Yiling's face was somewhat puzzled. Devote the newly acquired killing points. Yiling felt a crisp and itchy sensation in her mind, with many obscure and complex things that were difficult to understand. Under the influence of the system, Yiling can easily understand those meanings. My own swordsmanship has taken me to a whole new level. That's a different scenery. Yiling waved her long sword and swept through the air, the sobbing sound of the wind disappeared, only a slight sound. The air resistance is infinitely lowered. Yiling can unleash her strength 100%. And the speed of wielding the knife has greatly increased. Each move is already clear to the heart, without any further confusion. Use it, such as using the fingers. Yiling just held the knife and burst out with a strong and heroic aura. Wave the knife casually. The aura of tyranny spread everywhere. And Yiling's martial arts seem to have become similar to his own, with a strong killing intent. The internal forces in the body have become more active, ferocious, and have undergone a leap in quantity and quality. Very good. Yiling nodded. At the same time, with a flash of his body, he was as violent and savage as a bull's charge, and in an instant, he smashed the door into debris. Outside the inn, the cold wind blew and Yiling felt a slight chill in her body. Looking back at the debris on the door, my eyebrows furrowed slightly. This lightness skill. Is it really just body movements? Can there still be such destructive power? Yiling felt a bit amused in her heart. However, it can be confirmed that although lightness skills are very powerful, they have indeed greatly improved one's speed. Whether it's walking or fighting, I have more choices. Today. What a fruitful day. Yiling looked at the sky, with a hint of a smile on her lips. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Disaster of Doom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Disaster of Doom. At this point, Within a luxurious restaurant, there are no ordinary customers present. However, the large space does not appear desolate. There was only a group of powerful martial artists in the martial arts world, with long swords on their waist and a cold killing intent on their faces. The tavern owner had a smile on his face, but there was a deep fear in his eyes that could not be dispelled. He smiled apologetically and stood in front of a dwarf, ready to obey at any time. The dwarf, expressionless, took a cup of clear tea from the boss's hand. Take a sip and nod. It's Canghai. Yurenhao and his team haven't come yet. Canghai frowned slightly, with a puzzled expression. Although he had already arrived in Fuzhou City, Qingcheng Xixio should have received the news, but he did not come to greet him. No news even came. All of this is somewhat unusual. Master, when we came to Fuzhou City, we contacted them using the unique methods of the sect, but there was no response at all. The disciple next to him quickly responded, with a slightly unnatural expression on his face. Obviously, something unusual has also been discovered. Canghai let out a thud in his heart and felt something was amiss. His eyebrows furrowed tightly, and his face was filled with anger. Even though its small body is comparable to that of a child, its internal strength bursts forth, emitting a terrifying impact in the air. The disciple next to him looked at Lin Canghai in anger and quietly retreated, his heart filled with fear. The four beauties of Qingcheng. Among the disciples of the Qingcheng sect, they are also outstanding. But now he has lost contact in this small Fuzhou city, and may even fall just the Fuwei Escort Agency. There can never be such power. Although angry, Lin Canghai's mind is like a clear mirror. I touched my chin. Difficulty cannot be achieved. Have other experts also learned about the news of the exorcism sword technique? Lin Canghai's expression turned black and he suspected in his heart. It seems that I need to hurry up now. You go surround the Fuwei Escort Agency now, no one can escape. And anyone who dares to approach or help the Fuwei Escort Agency can be killed on the spot. Canghai's voice was low, as if the tranquility before the storm came. Good. The disciples of the Qingcheng sect clasped their fists and dared not provoke Canghai's emotions at all. They turned around and left the restaurant in a murderous manner, heading straight for the Fuwei Escort Agency. The corner of Fuzhou City. A pitch-black alley. Usually, no one comes here. Insects are everywhere and sewage flows. Occasionally, there is an unpleasant odor coming, as if entering some garbage dump. A middle-aged man huddled in the alley, panting heavily and looking tired. His eyes were filled with a sense of happiness as he survived the disaster. The heart thumped as if about to jump out of the chest. Yang Xiu. Just an ordinary escort from Fuwei Escort Agency. This time, it was only sent by the chief bodyguard Lin Zhennan to the Golden Blade sect in Luoyang and other sects that had friendly relations with the Fuwei Escort Agency to seek help. After all, in the current city of Fuzhou, many people from the martial arts world have come, each with strong martial arts skills and a keen eye. Each one is a master far beyond ordinary people. Judging from their movements, they are all heading towards the Fuwei Escort Agency. Even he was chased shortly after leaving the Fuwei Escort Agency. If it weren't for his fast running and familiarity with the terrain within Fuzhou City. I'm afraid it's already a corpse now. I don't know who my Fuwei Escort Agency has offended and is going to face such a settlement. Yang Xiu let out a light sigh, his heart full of doubts. After all, the Fuwei Escort Agency. Wishing for blessings is above, but power is below. He has a good reputation, is kind to others, and has never made any enemies. But the people who came this time are all very unusual. Each one has extraordinary martial arts skills, and they are definitely not something that a skilled bodyguard like them can resist. Hey, let's leave Fuzhou first. Yang Xiu stood up with difficulty, feeling a strong sense of fatigue from all his limbs, as if he was about to fall apart in the next moment. At this moment, at the entrance of the alley, two figures appeared. Fat and thin, wearing the uniform of the same sect, with a contemptuous smile on his face. He looked at Yang Xiu with a mocking gaze, as if he was looking at a dead person. Hee, I thought I could easily catch some big fish. I didn't expect it to be just a small servant. Apart from running away, he doesn't have much ability anymore. The two of them had wild smiles and looked at the trembling escort. He jokingly said, Master has instructed that the entire Fuwei Escort Agency should not leave any chickens or dogs behind, even flying mosquitoes should be chopped up, and ant nests should be watered. Heard this statement. Yang Xiu's face was pale and his eyes were panicked, trembling in the corner. The smell of death spread throughout him, making him feel a bit suffocated. Ha, the disciples of the Qingcheng sect looked at the trembling escort, feeling only amused and burst into laughter. Thin junior brother drew his long sword and attacked the escort. Yang Xiu gritted his teeth and used his knife to resist, but his three-legged martial arts were like a local chicken and a dog in front of such a true martial arts sect. Unable to withstand a single blow. Ding ding dang dang, the sound of metal and iron hitting each other in the alley was incessant, and the eyes of the two disciples of the Qingcheng sect were full of ridicule, as if playing with them, cutting bloodstains on Yang Xiu's body. The scent of fresh blood is scattered and rich. Not long after. Dang, Yang Xiu's wrist was torn and his long sword fell to the ground. Looking towards the slowly approaching disciples of the Qingcheng sect, their eyes were filled with fear and a look of despair. This extremely strong martial arts skill is beyond my ability to resist. Yang Xiu slowly closed his eyes. Junior brother, hurry up and take action. Don't waste time, we still have to go to the Fuwei Escort Agency later. Pang's senior brother's eyes were a bit impatient and he spoke up to urge. This escort is just a rough man. What's fun about it? Kill early and rest early. Junior brother, haven't you started yet? Upon hearing that there had been no movement for a long time, senior brother Pang looked impatient. In the alleyway, there was a sudden and unbearable silence, even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Senior brother Pang feels something is wrong. Hurry around and take a look. I saw a headless corpse still standing upright, blood spraying across the ground. From the perspective of clothing, it's just my junior brother. My own junior brother, I don't know when, but he was beheaded with a knife. Didn't even make a sound. Pang's senior brother looked at a tall black figure next to the corpse with a frightened expression on his face. He has a strong physique, a handsome and extraordinary appearance, full of a strong and fierce aura. Yi Ling's face remained expressionless, and her eyes were as cold and deep as a cold pond, looking down at senior brother Pang from a high position. Holding a knife in one hand, blood was continuously dripping from it. It looks like a Shura coming out of hell, with a violent and destructive aura spreading everywhere. Who are you? Senior Pang's heart tightened and he quickly drank and asked. His voice trembled a bit, and his back was wet with cold sweat. He grabbed the long sword in his hand, but there was no sense of security in his heart. My own strength and that of my junior brother are almost the same. This man can kill his junior brother with one blow, so similarly, he can also kill himself with one blow. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. One person, one knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. One person, one knife, Yi Ling. An untimely voice rang out, and Yang Xiu was originally ready to kill, but the other party did not take action for a long time. Opening her eyes, she saw Yi Ling holding a blood-stained long sword, expressionless, with the broken body of her skinny junior brother beside her, bleeding profusely. A violent aura permeated. Yi Ling. Yang Xiu tentatively said something. Is it actually Yi Ling? Pang's senior brother knew the name of the man in front of him, his eyes flickering, and his mind racing to think. Simultaneously speaking. I am a disciple of the Qingcheng sect. If you let me go, I can hide the fact that my junior brother was killed for you, and I can also blame this escort. If you don't let me go, the next thing you'll face is endless retaliation from the Qingcheng sect. Although you have high strength, you're just one person. What are you fighting against the Qingcheng sect for? Pang's senior brother stood up and looked at Ling. Holding a long sword at the same time, his eyes flickered as he pondered how to escape quickly. As long as you escape to the Fuwei Escort Agency or the stronghold of the Qingcheng sect, you will be safe. Ling's face remained unchanged and she did not answer. But it was a slash, and at the same time, there was Senior Pang's sharp cry. You're going to kill me, the Qingcheng sect won't let you go. Pushi, a sharp blade enters the body. Senior Pang's head flew high, and the pupils in his eyes contracted, leaving behind a look of fear. The headless corpse spewed blood like a fountain, and then fell softly to the ground. Yang Xiu's face was dull at this moment. Rubbed my eyes. Is it possible that one is dreaming about their own difficulties? Is this still the familiar Ling? In my previous impression. Although Ling has a strong physique and a handsome face. After all, he is just an ordinary person, and his level of martial arts is not much worse than himself. But how many days have it been? The changes are so great. More than one person dealt a blow, almost killing all the local ruffians and hooligans in Fuzhou City. Even the disciples of the Qingcheng sect, the true experts with internal power, are not enemies of unity under his sword. Ling, is it really you? Yang Xiu looked incredulous and trembled slightly as he said. And Ling just glanced at him. He didn't speak. Put away the blood knife and leave on your own. In the dark alley. Only Yang Xiu, who doubted life, remained, along with two broken bodies. The mixture of fresh blood and sewage emits an unpleasant odor, with a bloody smell that is overwhelming. Master, 5 more disciples have gone missing in the past few days. It seems that there is another force deliberately targeting our Qingcheng sect in the city of Fuzhou. These days, whenever a disciple leaves alone, everyone is in a state of panic, afraid of being killed by that mysterious force. Inside the restaurant. A disciple knelt down on one knee and said trembling. His head was deeply lowered, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He dared not take a second glance at Canghai, afraid of being provoked by him. Pop. The tea cup was thrown to the ground, then turned into fine powder, and the hot tea flowed all over the ground, even wetting the clothes of the disciples below. He bared his teeth in the scorching heat, but his body dared not move. Damn it! Canghai's face turned green and white, his hair was about to stand up one by one, and his eyes were red, clearly on the brink of violence. Are you all a bunch of trash? It's been so many days, I don't even know the name of the killer. Canghai looked down at the kneeling disciple, his fingers trembling slightly due to excessive anger. To sum up, more than 10 disciples of the Qingcheng sect have already died. Even though the Qingcheng faction has achieved great success, Canghai still feels a pang of pain. Master, we just arrested an escort named Yang Xiu from the Fuwei Escort Agency who wanted to sneak out of the city. At this moment, he is being detained in a cell. Coincidentally, this person witnessed the scene of 2 disciples of the Qingcheng sect fighting against the murderer a few days ago. At this time, the intelligence has already been extracted by us. The disciple below spoke in a panicked tone, arched his hand, and quickly said. Canghai suddenly turned his head. A fierce light flickered in the eyes. Don't say it yet. Yes. This murderer, named Ling, was previously a bodyguard at the Fuwei Escort Agency, but recently left the agency. The disciple below quickly reported. Report all the information about Ling, including his appearance, his skillful use of weapons, and even the fact that he killed all the local ruffians and hooligans in Fuzhou City with just one blow. After a moment, Canghai sat on a chair, with the armrests beside him being crushed, turning into fine powder and falling one after another. All the information about Ling was deeply engraved in his heart. Ling. Canghai's tone was low, his face was covered in dark clouds, and his killing intent was constantly expanding in his heart. I will surely defeat you to the bone and turn you to ashes. Fuwei Escort Agency. At this moment, the house was deserted, and the scene of a bustling crowd no longer looked particularly desolate. Within the escort agency, people are in a state of panic. Being targeted by martial arts sects like the Qingcheng sect is nothing but a disaster of destruction. They are all ordinary people. Even if they have learned some martial arts, how can they be compared to the serious martial arts sections? That's a master with internal power. My strength is not at the same level. Everyone felt a hint of despair in their hearts. I just hope that some experts can take action to save a horse from the Fuwei Escort Agency. And in the hall at this moment, Lin Zhennan sat in a chair, his face looking quite heroic and tired. His originally pitch black hair also showed a hint of grayish-white. During this period, I have been exhausted and haven't had a good sleep. Below, a servant was reporting, with a pale face and a trembling tone. Chief Escort, none of the people we sent have escaped from Fuzhou City. Some even were killed by the disciples of the Qingcheng sect as soon as they left the Fuwei Escort Agency. Even if one is lucky enough to run far, they will still be relentlessly pursued by those disciples of the Qingcheng sect, and now their bodies are all placed outside. I counted and there were a total of 7 people, but none of them were able to escape from my Fuwei Escort Agency. The servant's eyes were filled with fear. The Qingcheng sect is really terrifying. Even though the Fuwei Escort Agency has a great family and business, if it really provokes such a martial arts sect, it is still difficult to escape the outcome of breaking down the family and destroying the family. The Lin Zhennan couple sitting above also furrowed their brows and had a gloomy expression on their face. Hey, fortunately we sent Ping Ji away early. Otherwise, my Lin family would really be wiped out. Lin Zhennan let out a light sigh and shook his head. At this point, he saw no hope of survival. The wife beside her also shed tears, looking extremely fragile. Unfortunately, if we die, Ping'er will be helpless in the future, and I really can't let go. Lin Zhennan hugged his wife's shoulder, his eyes filled with emotions such as fatigue and loneliness, as if in the twilight. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Hunting and killing a disciple of the Qingcheng sect, infuriating Canghai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Hunting and killing a disciple of the Qingcheng sect, infuriating Canghai. In the lobby, Lin Zhennan and his wife looked worried. The scene of a bustling crowd before disappeared, and at this moment, the Fuwei Escort Agency was gloomy and extremely desolate. Outside of the Fuwei Escort Agency, a large number of Jianhu people carry long swords on their waists, and anyone who dares to help the Fuwei Escort Agency is all killed. Lin Zhennan let out a light sigh. The temples have turned a bit pale. He felt a sense of death. At this moment, Chief Escort. A bodyguard hurriedly ran in, his dark face filled with a look of panic, and his eyes exuded a strong sense of fear. In front of Lin Zhennan in the future, his body felt a bit weak and almost fell to the ground. What's going on? Lin Zhennan lightly supported his forehead, with an indelible weakness in his eyes. Chief Escort, Qingcheng has sent someone to deliver a message. As long as you hand over the 70.2 evil warding swordsmanship of the Lin family and Yiling's head, they promise to let us go. The escort looked at Lin Zhennan with his eyes fixed on him, his face muscles involuntarily trembling, wanting to hear the answer he wanted from Lin Zhennan's mouth. Can be followed later. Lin Zhennan was momentarily stunned, then shook his head and smiled bitterly. Hey, our Lin family's 70.2 methods of warding off evil swordsmanship are all created by our ancestors, including the wild fox Zen. Faced with those ordinary people, there is naturally no disadvantage, but when it comes to the martial arts world, even third-rate martial arts cannot be considered. Those rumors are just boring and fabricated by some rural people. The exorcism sword technique does not have the legendary power to make a person a top-notch expert. The Qingcheng sect can also be considered a well-known martial arts sect. How could they possibly appreciate the three-legged martial arts of our Lin family? Lin Zhannan said slowly, but his heart was beating faster for a moment. Subconsciously, he concealed the true secret of the evil warding sword technique. Even if it means breaking down the house and destroying the door, the sword techniques for warding off evil will never be revealed. Immediately after, Lin Zhannan looked down at the dart leader below with a puzzled expression and asked. Let's put aside the matter of dispelling evil swordsmanship. Why did the Qingcheng sect mention Ling? Isn't he already leaving our Fuwei Escort Agency? Is it possible that he has offended the Qingcheng sect somewhere? Lin Zhannan and his wife both had a man's figure flashing in their minds. Hand held long knife. Clothes stained with blood. The cold eyes are like a spring under the moon, icy and chilling, with a murderous aura. As if the Shura had emerged from hell, exuding a violent and murderous aura all over her body. The escort's expression was also somewhat strange, and then he said incredulously. The Qingcheng sect said that Ling's methods were cruel and he killed the 4 shios of Qingcheng. Now, he is still killing disciples of the Qingcheng sect everywhere in Fuzhou. The current Qingcheng sect has a deep blood feud with Ling. It is said that whoever can hand over Ling's head to the Qingcheng sect can not only obtain a large amount of silver, but also join the Qingcheng sect to learn its martial arts secrets. The dart leader spoke, feeling a sense of absurdity in his heart. About Ling. He has naturally seen it before and is not very eye-catching. But suddenly one day, everything changed, and Ling seemed like a fierce tiger out of the gate, unrelated to these ordinary people. And Lin Zhannan's pupils were also contracting, and his fingers were trembling slightly. I didn't expect it. I actually live under the same roof as such a wild beast and tiger. I used to think that Ling was a bit out of place, but he could be considered a hard-working and capable man. But now, I have indeed taken my eyes off it. After all, wild beasts are all solitary, how could they possibly associate with sheep? Lin Zhannan sighed in his heart. However, although Ling is bloodthirsty, his character is still good and he will not attack ordinary people. I didn't have any guilt towards Ling, and even formed a good relationship with him. There was no conflict of interest with Ling, and even Ling took action to kill a disciple of the Qingcheng sect. Difficulty cannot be achieved. Is Ling repaying the Fuwei Escort Agency and the good fate of that time? Lin Zhannan had a somewhat sentimental thought. At this moment. Report. General, Chief Escort. Another escort hurriedly rushed over, with a look of panic in his eyes, even stuttering when speaking. Door, suddenly more than 10 more corpses appeared. And judging from their attire, they are all corpses of disciples of the Qingcheng sect. It is said that these disciples of the Qingcheng sect were all killed by Ling alone. After the escort finished speaking, his legs felt a bit sore and weak, trembling and even about to fall to the ground at any moment. Qingcheng sect. That's the Qingcheng sect. Even some ordinary disciples are not opponents of the Fuwei Escort Agency. And that Ling, surprisingly, was so fierce and killed more than 10 disciples of the Qingcheng sect. And Lin Zhannan was also shocked, even spitting out the tea in his mouth. What? The Gulan Tavern closed its door tightly. Afraid of getting involved in the impending disaster. And above the tavern, above the roof, a figure in black stood tall, holding an unsheathed long sword in his arms. Looking down at the entrance of the Fuwei Escort Agency, the members of the Qingcheng sect dressed in uniform stood tall. Lips tightly pursed, with a cold and domineering expression. The indifferent eyes have no warmth at all. A gentle breeze brushed by. The black robe made a hunting sound. Like a black god of death, emitting an incredibly terrifying and domineering killing intent, as if to erase everything and destroy everything. The members of the Qingcheng sect gathered near the Fuwei Escort Agency, looking solemnly at the corpses on the ground, their palms clenched on the sword hilt, and their faces filled with murderous intent, reaching the edge of anger. At this moment, a gust of wind flashed by. A middle-aged figure dressed in a green robe appeared in the center of the crowd, looking like a child, but exuding an aura far superior to anyone present. The cold air on their faces was chilling, and everyone felt a large stone pressing down on their hearts, making them unable to breathe. Canghai's eyes turned red, clearly on the edge of anger. How many days have these been? More than 10 disciples died. Even he felt an uncontrollable flesh pain. Ling. Canghai gritted his teeth, his heart full of killing intent. Suddenly, a feeling of being peered upon emerged. Canghai suddenly turned his head, looking towards the roof of the tavern. A figure in black caught the eye, with no emotion in his eyes, like a towering god of death, showing no mercy towards mortals. Even when looking at oneself, there is no fear at all. It's just an instant. The intersection of a gaze. Canghai had already confirmed that the person he was thinking about day and night was Ling. Canghai drew his long sword. Without waiting for him to rush out, the man on the roof rushed forward instead of retreating, boldly pulling out his long sword and charging down. The body method is incredibly strong and explosive, with a strong sense of pressure, causing a piercing sound explosion in the air. It's just an instant. He appeared before his own eyes. The cold gleam of the blade became more and more obvious, and a knife struck towards his head. End of this chapter.